Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 12. So long, farewell. The series finale question mark of this show has arrived, and it's interesting in the sense that I feel like, in a lot of ways, this is how people thought the show was going to end, and yet they did a few things in this finale that was like, I didn't really think they would do that. So I'm just sort of sitting here kind of feeling like I'm bouncing between all these different directions and trying to figure out where my head is amidst it all.
Yeah, this is where I think we all thought that it was going, that Ted was gonna go home. But they did some things in this finale that turned that around in a way that by the end of this, I was like, why did he go home? Like there was a big offer in this episode that I was just like, some of this is now kind of not fitting together the way that I think the show was driving it to fit together. It felt like they had this ending. They wanted him to go home no matter what was on the table for him, which didn't work for me. Oh my goodness, I said it, guys. Put on your hard hats. There was stuff that I liked, but there was stuff that just didn't work.
There were a lot of comedic moments, I think, in this finale that really made me smile. I mean, like
Absolutely.
the little things with, Danny having two dates at the wedding of Beard. I thought everything with the match with West Ham was pretty well done.
Oh yeah.
Ted suddenly knowing what some of the rules were with soccer after so many
It was
years.
very cute.
Like, callbacks to the very first episode, the coach with the short shorts. Like, there was some good stuff in here. I think there are some questions. I think a lot of people are still, myself included, wanting something more out of this world. And, we'll have to wait and see, maybe even years if we get that.
I think they dropped a pretty big hint as to what the next show is going to be, that there is going to be a continuation. I feel like they were really kind of meta about it.
Okay, well, as we get into all of this sort of stuff, be sure to also check out our Patreon. We have a link for you guys in the description below. Over there, we've got some exclusive Ted Lasso content, including a discussion we did all about spin-offs, and in addition, of course, to all the other exclusive stuff we have going on over there. And thank you guys so much who have supported us over on Patreon. It helps us to do everything we really love to do at the channel, and we really appreciate it.
Also, if you still have Apple TV,
Yeah.
Silo is going on over there. It's a great new show that's, a few episodes in now, and we're covering that here at the channel. We also have some stuff over at our Patreon. Okay, let's
Yeah.
start this whole thing off by being like Apple. Why? Why did you change the time at the very end and made it that people on the East Coast were going to be up to 1:30 in the morning on a Tuesday? People had parties planned. It came out of nowhere. They just posted on their Twitter and was like, by the way, guys, we're not airing this at the regular time. It's going to be like 75 minutes long. It's going to be 9 o'clock on the West Coast, midnight on
Yeah.
the East Coast. So, bye. And they just didn't give any explanation for it. People were so mad about it. And then they posted like 20 tweets in a row to kind of bury what they're doing.
It was annoying. I mean, obviously on a selfish level, it was very annoying because, we had this whole plan of like, okay, we're going to get together, record this thing right after it ends at its normal time. But now we are sitting here, the next morning because they stuck it on in the middle of the night. And it's just sort of like, okay, guys, why did you do that? It's still not entirely clear. This is the biggest show you have ever had. No disrespect to the morning show or Severance or like any. It's obvious Ted Lasso is a pop culture phenomenon. It is very weird you guys did this, especially for, a big send-off episode that really is supposed to answer like all these different questions that people have.
Yeah, I saw so many people online that were just like, I had parties put together for this. Like, this is, how could you do this? People were spending money to have this, parties, people get together. It was really, really weird. No reason given.
Okay, so this finale, I think it's a lot of here or there. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of, this is a really good decision. Like, I really like this. But then why did you make this other decision? And like, just a good sort of simple example of all this is that, Richmond losing the Premier League title, it's a decision that I really like because this show can be a little bit cheesy. And, I say that out of a place of love. I love cheese. Give me a big old slice of sharp cheddar. But it's also like, not everything needs to be perfect. And the fact that they did all this, they're clearly a better team than when Ted first joined.
Mhm.
I loved all that. It's perfect. It felt realistic to
Yeah.
soccer. A
Yeah.
lot of the final for the Premier League with them facing off against West Ham, that felt believable enough for me. But then you've got the team singing "So Long Farewell" from The Sound of Music early on in the episode, and it's just like, this just doesn't feel like something a soccer team would do. And I say this loving the "Bye Bye Bye" rendition in season 2, but it was just the way that was handled, the purpose behind it, Ted sort of like directing it, like it. I bought into that. I did not buy into the "So Long Farewell," and I know it's the title of the episode, but just didn't need to be there.
I wasn't there with it. It didn't like, I think it was more than anything the song choice. And I understand why they chose this, but at the same time, watching them sing this, like, it felt like it just wasn't matching up in a way that Bye 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 did. It didn't work.
Yeah, and it's a weird choice in sort of a season of kind of weird choices that differ a little bit from the rest of the show. And this is a reminder, everyone, as we record this in the midst of a writer's strike, that, writers' voices are important, showrunners' voices are important. Season 3, Sudeikis was basically the showrunner. Season 1 and 2, it was Bill Lawrence, who is super experienced. He did Scrubs, Cougar Town. He's doing Shrinking now. He's still on board, but he didn't do the day-to-day this season. And I think, Sudeikis is a little bit close to his own sauce here. He is acting, editing, running, writing, doing everything on this show. And I think at times this season, someone should have been like, let's just sort of rein a little bit of this in. Do we really need to have a "So Long Farewell" musical performance in the middle of all of this? There were a couple just like 2-minute beats in this episode that were just like, okay, this didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, this episode was very long, and I'm fine with long episodes if everything kind of makes sense and it feels, cohesive. But there was parts of this that was just like, yeah, they could have taken some stuff out and condensed it. It would have been like a much stronger finale. All
Yeah.
right, let's talk about the Ted and Rebecca stuff, because I saw this online, but this whole thing felt like we were watching a rom-com where nobody got together except for the couple nobody likes. Congratulations, Beard and Jane, on your wedding, which was something that I was kind of like, I felt like we were going to go there, but I don't know anyone who was rooting for this couple. I mean, she treats him terribly. Like, he doesn't seem happy. I know he keeps saying he is, but he doesn't seem happy. So by the time they got to this wedding, I was like, I'm not here for this. And then we just had, the show starts off with seemingly, Ted stayed overnight at Rebecca's house, and just this kind of baiting of this fandom where I was always team just friends. I was
Yeah.
really great with that. I love the idea that we were going to have this show where the two main people do not get together. And then this season happened, and they started really building up towards that. And then this finale happened where it was like they were just running full speed ahead with these two and their love for each other. And, she's that whole scene where she sits down with him and offers him the world, where she's just like, if you're not here, I'm not here. If you're not here, I'm selling this team. However, how about I offer you this? I will pay you more. You'll make, loads of money. So you and your family will be able to do anything you want. Bring Henry out here. There are amazing schools out here, and you will be able to afford it because I'm going to pay you like you're a god. Then we're going to bring out Michelle as well. There are teaching opportunities out here. Henry will not be without his mother. He will have his mother, his father, opportunities, better schooling, and you will have money to give it all to him. And you will get to stay with the team that you love. Will still be together, as friends, as more, whatever it's going to be. And he doesn't even discuss it with Henry's mom, with Michelle, to be like, hey, do you think this is a good opportunity for our son? Like, we could be uprooting him from his friends, and it could end up being difficult for him, or it could be amazing for him, amazing for you. You could, be able to move forward with your teaching career, better schools. It could be a great new experience for him. Like, is this something that we as parents together want to consider as an opportunity for our son? None of it. It was shocking where Rebecca was basically, I choose you. And Ted was like, no, I'm going home no matter what.
Okay, I think that this is tricky to me because it's sort of like I understand maybe the idea that Ted was having in the moment, which is okay, Ted Lasso, I love it here. I love the team. I think he does love Rebecca. We can all debate as to what level that love is, but I think he does love Rebecca. And I think he thought in his mind, okay, it is really selfish for me to uproot Henry's life, his friends, everybody he has there, everybody Michelle has there, her family, who also help with Henry foreseeably. We know that Ted's mom's got a relationship with Henry as well, and move everything out here. I don't want to be a person that does that. I understand where that's coming from, but at the same time, as I sit here with Coco Vanderwolf, and I know she has plenty of opinions of her own about the final episode. She's our resident AFC Richmond Greyhound here. But no, I spent the entirety of this seemingly final season wondering if there was a way to keep Ted in the UK, because I didn't necessarily want him back there. It's just I didn't want to have it done in a way that made it seem very, very selfish on his part. And it feels like Rebecca gave him the very thing that I was wanting for most of this show, a way out that was realistic enough that I could buy into it. And yeah, I'm bummed that they didn't do that. And I mean, more than that, like the biggest thing that I'm probably bummed out about this finale, and I do think there were great things in it. It's just that I don't know why you needed to lead on Ted and Rebecca fans in the way that you did. Like, it's one thing to sort of play around with it, and they did that here and there in season 2. It's another thing to make people think for like a good 60 seconds at the start of this that they actually were together, and then Beard shows up, and then it just gets really weird, and it's obviously like, okay, this was all just a trick to make people think that something happened when it didn't. And then I'm just like, okay, why are you doing this? I'm not even a big Ted and Rebecca shipper, but it's even just like, don't make people sad.
Yeah, it felt like they were really leading people towards this. I mean, the big goodbye at the airport, and
Yeah.
her eyes are filled with tears. I thought at that point there could have been a situation where Ted's like, listen, I'm going to stay one more day and I'm going to make that call to Michelle. I'm going to actually talk to her about it and see what she says. And if she was like, Ted, like, the rest of his family's here, I think it's too much to uproot him. Then at that point, he can be like, yeah, I agree, or no, I don't agree. I think that conversation needed to happen to make it sort of be like that both of the parents came together and really talked out this opportunity, because it could have been. But because of the way that they did this scene at the airport and this whole episode, and even when he was on the plane, I'm like, is she just going to get on the plane? Like, they are really pushing this rom-com feel that they are going to end up together, that by the time she leaves the airport and she gets down to help this little girl, and there's the boatman, I was like, this isn't as satisfying as I thought it was going to be, because I felt like we were probably going to see him again at the end of this. If Ted and Rebecca didn't end up together, Boatman was going to show up. But for me, it wasn't as satisfying as I thought it was going to be, because they just gave me this like really intense, emotional, loving scene of these two characters that do have a love for each other, whatever it may be, sort of breaking that relationship up to then, fall into this man she met one time.
All right, it is time to put on the tinfoil hat here.
I'm scared of these comments, man.
Okay, well,
You guys gonna come for me today. I'm ready. I also have on my hard hat.
Okay, we're prepared for this. All right, here we go. I feel like there's a little bit of the final season of How I Met Your Mother going on here. And this is by no means as bad as the final season of How I Met Your Mother, which was just an abject disaster. But I think one of the big issues with that show was that over on How I Met Your Mother, they became so kind of in love with their own idea of the ending because, if you're a creator of a show or a writer or whatever else, I think you understandably you have a certain ownership over your own material and you sort of want to end things on your own terms with the way in which you envisioned it. But ironically, there's sort of a mirror going on here with what actually happened on the show itself because Rebecca ends up selling a certain percentage of Richmond to the fans.
Mhm.
And fans have a certain ownership, I think, over time with the show as well. And I feel like the Ted Lasso finale, it really stuck with sort of this idea of what they had originally envisioned as opposed to what the show sort of evolved into and what people who watched the show really enjoyed and appreciated about it. I mean, it's certainly possible in the early days they didn't know that Jason and Hannah would have the chemistry that the two of them did, or that people would love the idea of that relationship as much as they did. But to end it then in sort of this way that I'm assuming they had always had planned, in part because they wanted to, quote unquote, end this story in 3 seasons the way in which they had first sort of pitched it out. It's just sort of like you guys could have evolved this a little bit more, and yeah, it would have left the door open to more of an obvious season 4, and maybe Jason didn't want to do a season 4 of something that he felt like he'd already done, and he didn't want to leave that door open. It's hard to say exactly what the mechanism is, but it felt like this was too much of like, here's the original idea versus this is what the show has evolved into.
They still could have ended it with him moving Henry and Michelle out there and continuing on with the league without the show going on. That's an ending. Like it doesn't have to be he needs to be removed from the team. I mean, we watched the end of Criminal Minds where it was like
Yeah.
everybody went back to work and, wheels up, and that they're still out there fighting crime. They didn't shut the whole thing down. Like, it still could have ended there and then moved into what I think is going to be the spinoff or where they're going with it. So they dropped a really big hint in this where Trent has his book called The Lasso Way, which I think we all knew was
Yeah.
coming. And Ted read it and, gave him his notes where he was like, good job, but I would change the title because this was never about me. Like, this isn't about me. It was never about me. So then it gets changed to The Richmond Way. So it's like, okay, then that's enough to end that story, even if he stayed. Then we saw, Keeley and Rebecca with this women's league, AFC Richmond. And, if it's the Richmond way, it's still also the Richmond way, except now we're getting, a soccer show, but it's going to be the women's league. And that's where I think that we're going with this. I mean, if not, that's a very obvious spinoff for them.
It was a really easy thing for them to throw in there too. I mean, what does it take? Like 20 seconds of the finale to sort of Easter egg that in?
Yeah, and then you can still, if you want, I know we had, now Roy's like sort of the head coach of, the male team, but there's no reason why he couldn't decide to coach the women's team.
Yeah, and you could get cameos from the players. Hannah would still be involved, obviously, and I think we would all really, really love that. It's a very good idea. By the way, the note of Ted saying it was never about me, that was probably my number one closest to just like breaking into emotional puddle moment of the entire finale. Don't get me wrong, him reuniting with Henry was sweet and all of that, but it's just like, oh, Ted, this is the most Ted thing you have ever said on this show, and I know you believe this with all of your heart. And Roy, okay, my favorite, and this is probably no surprise to anyone as a resident Roy Kent stan, that I love so much of Roy in this finale. I'm disappointed, obviously, that he and Keeley are not together, and we'll get into that. But I want to be a diamond dog. Wanting to be a diamond dog, just the diamond dog stuff is at times too cheesy for me. But it just like that was so sweet, and he had so many like good little one-liners. Him going to Sharon finally, which is the thing I have been yelling about for just like a year now. You deserve love, Roy Kent, you fictional character, you.
No, it was nice to see him come to the group for some advice because, he did try to go kind of to Jamie. I mean, they've built this great relationship, but Jamie also wants to be with Keeley. So we
Yeah.
saw how that ended, where they both just went to her and they were like, you choose. And she tossed them both out, where I was just like, not satisfying for me. I really wanted to see her back with Roy. I mean, the Jamie relationship has been over forever. It wasn't a relationship that I was interested in seeing come back, and it didn't. So, I mean, I got that out of the finale, but I didn't really understand her motivation for not being back with Roy. They never really explained it. And there could have been more of that, like a scene with her and Rebecca, which I love, that
Yeah.
maybe she could have just been like, too much time has passed. Like, my feelings have changed. Like, whatever it is. Or I don't trust it because, like, I thought we were, together and we were doing really well. And the minute that I had this career, he bailed on me. I'm just going to take some time. Like, whatever it was going to be. But there just wasn't enough explanation.
I'm going to live in a world where they get back together, and you know what? No one can stop me from thinking this. So, if you are cynical about this in the comments, I do not care. I will not listen to you. I just feel like there's still a lot of love there, and I wish that they had gone to that place that I think a lot of us really, really wanted to see them go because they were such a light, and I think they were one of the best things about the second season of the show. Like, the chemistry that they had was so next level, and yeah, Royce clearly got a lot of issues, but
He's
he's
willing to work on them.
yeah, he's he's willing to work on them, and I think us getting a lot of that in the finale was satisfying. I think a lot of the stuff with Nate for me in the finale was really satisfying. I don't know why, but I loved him leaping into Ted's arms after he used his play at the very end, and I love sort of Nate talking about how people can change for the better
Yep.
and for the worse because
Yeah.
he is sort of like the perfect lens in which we can view all of that. I think
Yeah.
despite me being so mad at him in season 2, I feel like Nate's arc is one of the most satisfying on the entire show.
Absolutely. It was really satisfying. I mean, yeah, I felt like giving him a shake in season 2, but he's a complicated character and he was going through a lot of different things that we knew about, some things that we didn't really know about that, all sort of came to light. He's a very well-rounded character. He had a very satisfying, and it was nice to see also the whole team has been holding on to the sign he ripped up and put it together. Everybody put your
Yeah.
hands in. He's there too. Like, it was really satisfying.
All right, so a couple of other characters just to get into briefly here. I mean, I wish we had a more satisfying ending for Sam. I feel like Sam kind of got done dirty a little bit in this finale where he has this huge arc in season 2. He's got the restaurant going on, and, it seems as though everything is going to be okay after all that happened. But, like, the only real last thing we saw with it is just Edwin Akufu just sort of going over there and just sort of like trashing him. And I wish there was something a little bit more for that character other than, okay, he did end up getting to be on seemingly the Nigerian national team, which is
Yeah.
great. I just wanted a little bit more there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult. There's so many people on this team to sort of give everybody like just a quick moment. We saw Colin and his man, sharing a kiss like out in the open where they're feeling, much better about that. It was nice to see these quick little moments that everybody got a little something. But yeah, Sam has had such a huge role on this show that it was, yeah, I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more, but I am glad that he actually got to play for a team.
All right, so finally, here is my explanation for the beard wedding, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it, and they should have at least explained this, other than just having this happen in this weird green screen that did not look real at all. Okay, Beard obviously functions on chaos. Like,
Yes, he does.
we've learned now that, he was incarcerated and that he had this sort of chaotic past, and Ted helped him sort of get through this. And I think he is on some level really craving like a constant sort of challenge in his life, a constant sort of like, I need this push and pull in order to function. I need something to sort of make me feel like I'm always kind of on the edge. And it's like, okay, well, if this is really the case and you really need this, like, couldn't you explain this a little bit more directly with Jane, who from our perspective is just sort of like, she's just like ordering you around and doing weird things with you, and it just never feels like that real or that stable.
Yeah, it just never felt like she was very respectful to him. And, he's a character that a lot of us really care about. And after that conversation with Nate, where he did explain, that he had went to jail and that, Ted had given him this chance and then he stole his car and like
Yeah.
everything that happened, that Beard really needed a bit of stability, and that Ted was able to sort of give him that second chance, give him that stability, give him a job, give him sort of a way to look away from that chaotic side that got him in all this trouble all the time. And then he meets this woman who's not that nice to him and not that respectful to him, and he's diving back into this chaos again, and now he's married to it, and now Ted's not there anymore. Like, it felt like a very, like he's going back to the way that he was. It didn't feel like he was kind of moving from his stable relationship with Ted that has given him purpose into this next stable relationship. He's moving from that back into chaos. It just feels like it's not going to end well.
Why wasn't Ted at the wedding? Like, I'm just gonna say that part of this, they should have just shown Beard proposing to Jane. They should not have done the wedding because Ted was not there, and Ted's not dead. Like, it's not that far of a journey over. I know it's a long plane, but Ted would be at Beard's wedding.
Yes, absolutely. Ted not being there
Yeah.
or not standing beside him or anything was very odd.
Yeah, I do not understand that choice at all. And like I said, you could have just done a proposal and it could have still been weird. You could have had him like dangling from the sky at Nelson Road or something. I don't know. You could still have that. Like, it's an uneven finale. I think there's some stuff I really loved. I mean, overall, I'm going to miss this show so much. Like,
Tremendously.
the first and second season in particular, like, they mean just so much to me as a viewer. And like, it was touching and funny. And this is one of my favorite comedies, I think, in probably a good decade. So
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many shows out there, and we cover a lot of
Yeah.
them that are really dark and, mysterious or creepy. But it was so nice to have a show that was just lighthearted, great message, feel good, go in, come out feeling even better than you did.
Richmond till we die, everybody.
All
That's
right.
the all right. No, but thank you guys so much for being with us. Like Jess said, check out our coverage of Silo. You already have an Apple TV Plus subscription.
It's really good. It's in the first season. Like I said, I think it's only like 5 or 6 episodes I've aired. It's really good.
Yeah, check that out. Hang out with us. We're going to be discussing that all season, and we will be here. See you next time, and thank you guys so much who are supporting us on Patreon.
Thank you.